Captain Jiwan sat in her small quarters aboard the human ship Dancing Star. She stared at the message that had just arrived on her personal screen. The words made her stomach feel heavy with worry. The Galactic Council needed help. Big help. The message was from Ambassador Kralthek. He was a Velthari diplomat. His people looked like giant walking beetles with 4 eyes and shiny blue shells. Kralthek had always been fair to humans. Now his message sounded scared. "Captain Park," the message began. "The Theknari Empire has given us 1 day to surrender. If we do not give up, they will destroy our home worlds. Their fleet is massive, 3,000 ships. We have never seen anything like it. Please advise if humanity can help." Jiwan read the message 3 times. Each time it made her feel more worried. The Theknari were known across the galaxy as destroyers. They had conquered 47 star systems. Their technology was hundreds of years ahead of most other races. When they wanted something, they simply took it. She stood up and walked to her small window. Outside, stars moved slowly past as her ship traveled through space. Earth was far behind them now. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. They were still the new kids trying to fit in. The Dancing Star was not a warship. It carried diplomats and trade goods between human colonies and alien worlds. Jiwan commanded only 30 crew members. What could they do against 3,000 enemy ships? But something inside her chest felt warm when she thought about the message. Humans had learned something important during their short time in space. They had learned that kindness was more powerful than weapons. Jiwan pressed a button on her wall. "Computer, connect me to the memory banks on Earth." A soft voice answered. "Connection established, Captain. Search for all recorded interactions between humans and Council species. Focus on acts of help, kindness, or assistance given by humans to non-humans." The computer was quiet for several seconds. Then numbers began to appear on her screen. Jiwan's eyes grew wide as she read them. 47,632 recorded instances, the computer said. Data spans 70 years of human contact with alien species. "Show me the most recent examples," Jiwan said. The screen filled with reports. Dr. Minho had saved a Velthari child 63 years ago. The child had been born with a twisted shell. Other Velthari doctors said nothing could be done. Minho had worked for 4 months to create a new surgery. He fixed the child's shell and never asked for payment. Engineer Do-hyun had helped a Blixtar ship 47 years ago. The ship was dying in space. It carried medicine for a sick world. Do-hyun worked for 3 days without sleep to fix their engines. The Blixtar captain had no money to pay him. Do-hyun did the work anyway. Trader Soyeon had shared her food with hungry Zephyrian monks 39 years ago. Their ship was broken in deep space. They would have starved without her help. She gave them half of her emergency supplies. Scientist. Taehyun had taught the Creedol people how to build faster ships 26 years ago. The Creedol were smart with numbers, but could not figure out space travel. Taehyun shared human knowledge for free. Each story was the same. Humans helping, others humans giving aid when they could have walked away. Humans choosing kindness when it would have been easier to ignore problems that were not theirs. Computer, cross-reference these acts of kindness with current positions of power in each species, Jiwan said. New information appeared. The Velthari child that Minho had saved was now Ambassador Kralthek, the same person who had sent the message asking for help. The Blixtar captain that Do-hyun had helped was now High Reef Lord Blixara. He controlled 150 bioships grown from living coral. The Zephyrian monks that Soyeon had fed now ran the temple fleet. 200 ships that could bend space and time. The Creedol people that Taehyun had taught now had the most advanced mathematics in the galaxy. They could change the odds of winning any battle. Jiwan felt her heart beat faster. She understood now. Humans had not planned this. They had simply done what felt right. They had helped others because helping felt good. But each act of kindness had been recorded. Each good deed had been remembered. The human quantum neural networks never forgot anything. Every conversation, every trade deal, every time a human had chosen to help instead of harm, it was all there in the data banks. Set course for the Galactic Council station, Ji-won ordered her crew. Best possible speed. Her first officer, Lieutenant Seo-jun, looked confused. Captain, should we contact Earth for military support? Ji-won smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just realized they held all the cards in a very important game. No, Lieutenant. We are not going to fight the Theknari. She turned to look at her crew. We are going to remind the galaxy that debts must be repaid. The dancing star changed course. Behind them, automatic messages went out to every human ship in space. The messages contained lists of names and deeds, old favors that had never been repaid, ancient kindnesses that had been given freely. Humanity was about to collect on 70 years of accumulated goodwill, not through force or threats, but through the simple power of being remembered. As the ship flew through space toward the council station, Ji-won thought about her father. Taehyun Park had died 5 years ago. He had never known that his gift of knowledge to the Kree doll would one day save worlds. He had simply wanted to help people who needed help. That was the human way. Help first, ask questions later, remember everything. And when the time came to collect on old debts, do it with the same kindness that had created those debts in the first place. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humanity. They were not the strongest fighters. They were not the smartest scientists, but they were the species that never forgot a friend. And they always repaid kindness with more kindness than anyone expected. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in their special chairs. Each chair was made to fit different body types. Some delegates had tentacles, others had wings. A few breathed different gases and wore breathing masks. Captain Ji-won walked into the great hall. Her boots clicked on the metal floor. Every eye in the room turned to watch her. She wore her best uniform. The dark blue fabric had small silver stars on the shoulders. She carried a data pad in her left hand. Ambassador Krelthek stood at the center of the room. His blue shell caught the light from the ceiling. His 4 eyes blinked in the pattern that meant he was very worried. Behind him, a huge screen showed the Theknari fleet. 3,000 ships hung in space like angry metal sharks. Captain Park, Krelthek said, "Thank you for coming so quickly. As you can see, we face an impossible situation." Ji-won nodded. She looked around the room at all the frightened faces. The Blixtar delegate was changing colors from orange to deep red. The Zephyrian representative was floating 3 feet off his chair. Even the normally calm Kree doll was making clicking sounds with his mouth. "The Theknari demand complete surrender," continued Krelthek. "If we do not agree in 18 hours, they will begin destroying our home worlds. Their planet-killer weapons can crack a world in half." Council Speaker Vextar rose from his large chair. He was a Velthari like Krelthek, but much older. His shell had lines of age carved into it. "We have considered all military options. Our combined fleets number fewer than 800 ships. The Theknari technology is far superior to ours." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. Some delegates were already talking about evacuation plans. Others discussed surrender terms. Ji-won stepped forward. "The Terran Federation requests permission to address this crisis." The room fell silent. Speaker Vexitar's 4 eyes focused on her. "Captain Park, we appreciate human courage, but your entire fleet consists of maybe 50 ships. Most are cargo. Vessels like yours, what could humanity possibly do against such odds?" Ji-won smiled. It was a quiet smile, but something in it made the room feel different. "We are not offering military assistance, Speaker Vextar." "Then what are you offering?" asked the Blixtar delegate. His color had shifted to confused purple. "We are calling in debts," Ji-won said simply. The silence stretched longer. Finally, Speaker Vextar spoke. "Debts? What debts?" Ji-won activated her datapad. The main screen changed from showing the Theknari fleet to showing a list of names and dates. 63 years ago, Dr. Minho Yoon saved the life of a Velthari hatchling. The child had a deformed shell that your own doctors could not fix. Ambassador Krelthek went very still. His shell stopped its nervous color changes. Dr. Yoon worked for 4 months to develop a new surgical technique. He performed the operation for free. He refused all payment. Ji-won looked directly at Kralthek. That child grew up to become our current ambassador to the Galactic Council. Kralthek touched his shell where old scars marked the place of ancient surgery. How did you know? He whispered. We remember everything, Ji-won said. 47 years ago, engineer Do-hyun Kim saved millions of Blickstar lives. The freighter Gentle Current was dying in space. It carried medicine for worlds struck by plague. The Blickstar delegate's color shifted to shocked yellow. That was the ship of my grandfather, High Captain Blix Oro. Do-hyun worked for 3 days without sleep. He used station parts that he was not supposed to touch. He could have been fired from his job, but he saw people who needed help. Ji-won's voice grew stronger. Your grandfather pressed a coral pendant into his hands and said, "The reef remembers." The screen showed more names and stories. Trader Soyeon Lee sharing food with starving Zephyrian monks. The monks were now the leaders of their temple fleet. Scientist Taehyun Park teaching mathematics to the Creedal. Those same Creedal now controlled probability-changing technology. We have records of 47,632 acts of kindness over 70 years. Ji-won continued. Every time a human helped a non-human. Every favor given freely. Every moment when we chose to help instead of walk away. The chamber was completely quiet now. Even the air recycling system seemed to whisper more softly. You kept records, Speaker Vextar said slowly. You planned this. No. Ji-won shook her head. We kept records because that is what humans do. We remember everything. But we never planned to use these records. We helped because helping felt right. She paused and looked around the room. But now we need to ask our friends to remember what friendship means. The Blickstar delegate stood up. His color was shifting rapidly between different shades. You saved my grandfather's ship. You saved millions of my people. What do you need from the reef? Your bioships, Ji-won said. All of them. The Zephyrian representative floated higher. Our temple fleet has 200 ships. They are yours, to command. The Creedal delegate clicked his mouthparts in the pattern that meant deep thinking. Our probability mathematics show that helping friends increases the odds of survival for all species. We will deploy our reality-changing devices. One by one, other delegates stood up. Each one had a story of human kindness in their past. Each one owed a debt they had never expected to repay, but the most important voice had not yet spoken. In the corner of the chamber sat the Theknari trade representative. Her name was Tekhara. She was young for her species, barely past adult age. Her shell was still bright and unscratched. She had not said anything during the meeting. Now she stood up slowly. Captain Park, she said in a quiet voice. The room turned to look at her. Tekhara was the enemy's representative. Why was she speaking? 18 years ago, I was dying on a refugee station in the Outer Rim, Tekhara continued. Gene plague had infected my body. The station had no proper medical facilities. Food synthesizers were broken. Ji-won consulted her datapad. Medic Seung-jun Cho. He spent 3 weeks caring for you. He shared his own food rations to keep you alive. My father is High Admiral Thekvar, Tekhara said. He commands the fleet that threatens you now. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The enemy's daughter was sitting among them. She could have been a spy, but Tekhara was not finished speaking. I owe my life to a human who asked for nothing in return. My father does not know I am here, but he will listen to me. She looked around the room at all the gathered species. Perhaps it is time for the Theknari to learn what humans already know. Kindness is stronger than conquest. Ji-won felt hope growing in her chest. The plan was working. Not because humans were clever or sneaky, but because they had spent 70 years doing the right thing for the right reasons. Now all those small acts of kindness were coming together like pieces of a puzzle. The galaxy was about to see what happened when good deeds grew into something bigger than anyone had imagined. High Admiral Tekvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Dominion. Around him, his officers worked at their stations. Green lights blinked on control panels. The sound of engines hummed through the metal floors. Outside the great windows, his fleet stretched across space like a field of deadly stars. 3,000 ships, the largest attack force the Theknari Empire had ever assembled. Each ship carried weapons that could destroy cities. The flagship alone had enough firepower to crack a moon in half. "Sir," called his tactical officer. "Long-range sensors are detecting movement in the council space." Tekvar turned his attention to the main screen. His 3 hearts beat in slow rhythm as he studied the display. Ships were moving toward the battle zone. But not just any ships. Blixtar bio-vessels emerging from hyperspace, the officer reported. "Count is 150 ships." Tekvar's middle heart skipped a beat. The Blixtar had not fought in any war for 200 years. Their ships were grown from living coral, beautiful but deadly. Why were they here? "More contacts," another officer called. "Velthari reality shapers. 37 dreadnoughts." The screen filled with new signals. Ship after ship appeared on the sensors. Zephyrian temple vessels that existed partly outside normal space. Creedal probability manipulators that could change the laws of physics. Even small fleets from species that Tekvar barely recognized. "How many total?" he asked. His tactical officer was quiet for a long moment. "Sir, we count over 2,000 ships. More are still arriving." Tekvar felt his confidence crack like old metal under stress. This was not possible. The council races never worked together. They argued about everything. They could barely agree on what day it was. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission. It comes from a small human ship. Put it through," Tekvar ordered. The screen changed to show a young human female in a blue uniform. Behind her stood someone that made all 3 of Tekvar's hearts stop beating. At once, his daughter, Tekhara. She was supposed to be on the trade station 3 systems away. What was she doing with the humans? "High Admiral Tekvar," the human said. "I am Captain Jiwan Park of the Terran Federation. I believe you know my companion." Tekhara stepped forward. Her young shell gleamed under the ship's lights. "Hello, Father." "Tekhara," Tekvar whispered. "What are you doing? Why are you with the enemy?" "They are not the enemy, Father." Tekhara's voice was calm, but firm. 18 years ago, when I was dying of gene plague on Refuge Station Omega, a human saved my life. Do you remember? Tekvar's oldest memories stirred. His daughter had been so small then. The plague had attacked her genetic structure. No Theknari medicine could help her. The station was falling apart. Food was running out. Medic Seungjun, "Cho," Captain Park said quietly. He was assigned to the station as part of a human aid mission. When the plague hit, most species evacuated their people. The humans stayed to help. Seungjun shared his own food with me. Tekhara continued. He worked 20 hours a day trying to find a cure. When the station's medical bay lost power, he carried me to his quarters and used his personal life support system to keep me alive. Tekvar remembered now. The human medic had been so strange. Most species would have saved their own people first, but this human had spent 3 weeks caring for a dying alien child. He had asked for nothing in return. "Your daughter lives because of human kindness," Captain Park said. "We could use that debt to demand anything from her. Instead, we ask only that you listen." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machines. Tekvar looked at the tactical display. 2,000 enemy ships waited in space, but they were not attacking. They were just waiting. "What do you want?" he asked. "We want you to understand something," Captain Park replied. "This fleet was not built by threats or fear. Every ship out there belongs to someone who owes humanity a debt of kindness." The screen split to show different parts of the gathered fleet. Captain Park's voice continued as images flowed past. "The Blixtar High Reef Lord commands those bioships because a human engineer once saved millions of his people from plague. The Velthari ambassador leads those dreadnoughts because a human doctor fixed his broken shell when he was a child. More images appeared, strange and beautiful ships from across the galaxy. Each one had a story. Each story involved a human who had chosen to help when they could have walked away. The Zephyrian temple fleet is here because a human trader once shared food with hungry monks. The Creedal probability ships joined us because a human scientist taught their people how to travel between stars. Thekvar felt something he had not experienced in many years: doubt. His empire had conquered 47 systems through strength and fear. But here was an enemy that had conquered hearts through kindness. This is impossible, he said. No species plans this far ahead. No one builds alliances through such small acts. You are right, Captain Park agreed. We did not plan this. We simply did what felt right. When we saw people who needed help, we helped them. When we met strangers, we tried to be kind. Tekhara moved closer to the screen. Father, in all our conquests, how many friends have we made? How many species love the Theknari Empire? The question hit Thekvar like a physical blow. In truth, his empire had no friends, only subjects who obeyed through fear, conquered worlds that served because they had no choice. We rule through strength, he said slowly. And when that strength fails, Tekhara asked, what will be left? On his tactical display, more ships continued to arrive. Species he had never heard of were joining the defensive fleet. They came not because they were ordered to, they came because they owed debts to humanity. We could destroy you all, Thekvar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, Captain Park agreed. Your weapons are more advanced than ours. You could win this battle. But then what? You would rule over the graves of civilizations. You would be the emperor of empty worlds. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was gentle. Or you could choose a different path. You could choose to be remembered for kindness instead of conquest. Thekvar looked at his daughter. Tekhara was young, but her eyes held wisdom. She had grown up seeing both sides of the galaxy, the iron fist of the Empire and the open hand of human friendship. If I ordered the attack, he asked, what would you do? Tekhara straightened her young shoulders. I would stand with the people who saved my life. I would stand with the humans. The words echoed across the bridge. Thekvar's officers shifted uncomfortably. Their admiral's own daughter was choosing the enemy over her birth empire. But as Thekvar stared at the massive fleet opposing him, he began to understand. These were not enemies. These were friends. And friendship, he was learning, might be more powerful than any weapon ever built. The galaxy held its breath as the High Admiral of the most feared empire in known space wrestled with a choice that would change everything. The space between the two fleets became very quiet. Stars twinkled in the darkness like tiny diamonds. No weapons fired, no ships moved. Both sides waited to see what would happen next. High Admiral Thekvar stared at his tactical screen. His 3 hearts beat in different rhythms as he thought about Captain Park's words. His daughter Tekhara stood on an enemy ship, but she did not look like a prisoner. She looked like someone who had chosen her side. Sir, his tactical officer said, quietly. The fleet awaits your orders. Thekvar nodded but did not speak. Around him, his bridge crew watched nervously. They had served under him for many years. They knew he always chose to fight. The Theknari way was to take what they wanted through strength. But something felt different this time. Open a channel to all ship commanders, Thekvar ordered. Channel. Open, sir. This is High Admiral Thekvar to all vessels. Stand down from attack formation, maintain defensive positions only. Confused voices came through the communication system. His captains did not understand. They had come here to conquer new worlds. Why were they not attacking? Sir? Captain Zekmar of the destroyer Ironclaw spoke up. The enemy fleet is smaller than expected, but we can still achieve victory. Their technology is inferior to ours. No, Thekvar replied. But victory is not always about destroying enemies. Sometimes it is about making friends. More confused voices filled the channel. Making friends was not something the Teknari Empire had ever tried before. Tekvar closed the channel and turned to his communications officer. "Connect me directly to the human ship again." Captain Park's face appeared on the screen. Behind her, Tekhara waited patiently. Both females looked calm despite facing the largest war fleet in Teknari history. "Captain Park," Tekvar began, "you say your people remember every kindness. Do you also remember every cruelty?" "Yes," Park answered honestly. "We remember when people hurt us too. But we have learned something important about memory. We can choose which memories to act on." "What do you mean?" "We could spend our time seeking revenge for old wrongs. Many species have hurt humans over the years. Some have cheated us in trade deals. Others have refused to help when we needed aid." Park's voice stayed steady. "But focusing on bad memories only creates more bad memories." She gestured toward the fleet visible through her ship's windows. "Instead, we chose to focus on good memories. We remembered the species who helped us. We remembered the individuals who showed us kindness. And when we needed friends, those good memories brought us an army." Tekvar processed this information. The Teknari kept detailed records of every slight, every insult, every act of defiance. Their entire military doctrine was built on making examples of those who opposed them. "My daughter says I should choose kindness over conquest," he said, slowly. "But I have 47 worlds under my control, billions of subjects who depend on Teknari strength to maintain order." "We are not asking you to abandon your people," Park replied. "We are asking you to consider leading them differently." "How?" Park touched controls on her ship. The main screen split to show images from around the galaxy. Happy scenes of different species working together. Trade stations where multiple races shared resources. Colonies where humans and aliens built homes side by side. "This is what the galaxy looks like when species choose cooperation instead of conquest," Park explained. "Worlds that trade instead of raiding. People who share knowledge instead of hoarding secrets. Children who grow up with friends from different species." One image showed a playground where human children played with young Velthari, Blixtar, and Zephyrians. They laughed together as they ran through gardens under an alien sun. "Your empire could be part of this," Park continued. "The Teknari have advanced technology. Your people are brave and strong. Imagine what you could build if you used that strength to protect instead of conquer." Tekvar watched his daughter's face as the images played. Tekhara had spent time in human space. She had seen what peace looked like. Her eyes held a longing that touched something deep in his warrior heart. "The other species will never trust us," he said. "We have been their enemies too long." "Trust must start somewhere," Park replied. "It starts with one person choosing to believe in another person. It grows from there. And if I choose peace, what happens to my fleet? What happens to my warriors, who have known only conquest? They become protectors instead of destroyers. They become builders instead of raiders." Park's voice grew warmer. "Admiral, your people are not evil. They are strong and proud and loyal. Those are good qualities. The galaxy needs strong people to protect weak ones. It needs proud people to maintain high standards. It needs loyal people to keep their promises." For the first time in their conversation, Tekvar felt hope instead of doubt. The humans were not asking him to make his people weak. They were asking him to make them strong in a different way. "There is something else," Tekhara said softly. "Father, do you remember what you used to tell me when I was very small?" Tekvar's oldest heart clenched. "I told you that true strength protects those who cannot protect themselves. The human medic who saved me showed that kind of strength. He was far from his home world. He had no weapons except knowledge and kindness, but he used that strength to save my life." Tekhara moved closer to the screen. "You taught me that lesson, Father. The humans simply showed me how to live it." The bridge fell completely silent. Even the engine noise seemed to fade away. Tekvar looked at his daughter and saw the child he had raised to value honor and duty. But she had learned to apply those values in ways he had never imagined. "Captain Park," he said finally, "if I order my fleet to stand down, what guarantee do I have that your allies will not attack us?" You have the guarantee of 47,000 acts of kindness, Park replied. Every species in our fleet knows what it means to receive help when they need it most. They will not attack people who choose peace. The Kivar made his decision. It was perhaps the hardest choice he had ever made. Harder than any battle he had fought. Harder than conquering his first world. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet. This is High Admiral Thekvar. Stand down all weapons, assume peaceful formation. We are not here to make war today. The Theknari fleet began to change. Weapon ports closed, shields powered down. Ships moved into loose formations that showed no hostile intent. Across space, the Allied fleet responded in kind. Defensive positions relaxed. No one fired. No one attacked. For the first time in galactic history, the Theknari Empire had chosen peace without first being defeated in battle. Thekvar looked at his daughter's proud face and knew that this day would be remembered, long after all the conquests were forgotten. 3 days later, the neutral station Harmony Point buzzed with activity unlike anything in galactic history. Delegates from hundreds of worlds filled the great meeting halls. The station had been built for peace talks, but no one had ever imagined talks like these. Captain G1 walked through the busy corridors. Everywhere she looked, former enemies worked side by side. Theknari engineers shared technical data with Velthari scientists. Blixter reef builders discussed colony planning with human architects. Zephyrian monks meditated alongside Creedal mathematicians. The sight made her heart feel warm. This was what peace looked like when it grew from kindness instead of fear. She entered Conference Room Alpha, the largest meeting space on the station. The room could hold 1,000 delegates. Today, it was completely full. Representatives sat in specially designed chairs that accommodated every body type. The air smelled of different atmospheres mixing together through the life support systems. At the center of the room sat 3 figures who drew everyone's attention. High Admiral Thekvar wore simple robes instead of his military uniform. Next, to him, his daughter Tekhara held a data pad containing peace proposals. On Thekvar's other side, Ambassador Kraltek waited with documents that would change the galaxy forever. The formal peace accords are ready for signing, announced Council Speaker Vextar. His voice carried to every corner of the great room through translation systems. These agreements will end the Theknari expansion and bring the Empire into the Galactic Council as full members. Murmurs of approval filled the room. But G1 noticed that not everyone looked happy. Some delegates whispered among themselves. A few looked worried. Councillor Wexelon from the Outer Rim colony stood up. His species looked like walking trees with bark-covered skin. I must voice concern. The Theknari have conquered 47 worlds. They have enslaved billions of beings. Can we simply forgive all of this because they now speak of peace? Other voices joined his. The wounds from Theknari expansion were still fresh for many species. Entire civilizations had been destroyed or absorbed into the Empire. High Admiral Thekvar stood slowly. The room fell silent as the most feared military commander in the galaxy prepared to speak. Councillor Wexelon is right to question our sincerity, Thekvar began. His voice was deep and careful. The Theknari Empire has caused great suffering. We have taken worlds that were not ours. We have forced our will upon others through strength alone. He paused and looked around the room. I cannot undo those actions. I cannot bring back the lives that were lost, but I can promise that the old ways end today. Words are easy to speak, called out another delegate. What proof do we have that the Theknari will keep their promises? Tekhara stood beside her father. Because we are offering more than words. We are offering reparations. She activated her data pad. The main screen showed detailed plans that made the entire room gasp in surprise. The Theknari Empire will return full independence to 15 worlds that were conquered in the last 20 years, Tekhara announced. We will provide technology and resources to help rebuild worlds damaged during our expansion, and we will open our entire scientific database to the Galactic Council. The room erupted in shocked voices. The Theknari scientific database contained centuries of advanced research. It was worth more than entire star systems. Furthermore, Thekvar continued, The Imperial fleet will be restructured. Instead of conquest vessels, our ships will become peacekeeping forces. We offer them to the Galactic Council for protection of all member worlds. Jiwan felt tears forming in her eyes. This was more than she had dared to hope for. The humans had called in old debts expecting to save their friends. Instead, they had converted their greatest enemy into an ally. But the most surprising moment came when Captain Park herself stood up. "The Terran Federation has a proposal of our own," Jiwan announced. All eyes turned to her. She took a deep breath before continuing. "We propose the creation of the Galactic Memory Project. Every act of kindness, every moment of help given freely, every instance of cooperation between species will be recorded and preserved forever." She gestured toward the mixed crowd of delegates. "Today, we have seen what happens when good deeds are remembered and honored. But this should not be accidental. We should make it intentional." The idea was simple but revolutionary. A galactic database where every act of kindness would be cataloged. Not just human kindness, but kindness from all species. When someone needed help, they could call upon this vast network of accumulated goodwill. "The humans have shown us something remarkable," said High Reef Lord Blixera, his coral body shifting to thoughtful blue. "They remembered when we needed help, and they reminded us to remember when others needed help. This project would make such memory permanent." The Zephyrian High Monk drifted higher above his seat. "Our teachings speak of karma, the law that good actions create good results. This project would make karma visible across the galaxy." Even the logical Kreedal showed enthusiasm. "The mathematical probability of galactic peace increases exponentially when cooperative actions are systematically rewarded," their lead delegate calculated aloud. One by one, species began volunteering to join the project. They would share their own stories of kindness received and given. They would contribute to a galaxy-wide network of mutual aid and support. As the day continued, formal agreements were signed. The Tecnari Empire officially joined the Galactic Council. Trade agreements were established. Defense pacts were created. But the most important moment came at the very end. Tekhara approached Jiwan during a break in the proceedings. The young Tecnari female carried a small device in her hands. "Captain Park," she said quietly, "I have something for you." She handed Jiwan a memory crystal containing the complete records of every world the Tecnari had conquered, every species they had encountered, every individual who had shown courage or kindness during those dark times. "These are our memories," Tekhara explained, "the good ones and the bad ones. We want to add them to your project. Even in conquest there were moments of mercy, soldiers who protected civilians, administrators who helped rebuild damaged cities. We want those moments remembered too." Jiwan accepted the crystal with trembling hands. "This will help heal many old wounds. That is our hope. My father taught me that true strength protects those who cannot protect themselves. Your people taught me that strength also means remembering those who protect others." As evening fell on Harmony Point, representatives from across the galaxy celebrated the beginning of a new age. But Jiwan found herself standing alone at an observation window, looking out at the stars. Ambassador Kraltek joined her there. His old shell caught the light from passing ships. "Do you think it will work?" he asked. "This new galaxy we are trying to build." Jiwan smiled, thinking of all the small acts of kindness that had led to this moment. A doctor saving a child's life, an engineer fixing a stranger's ship, a medic sharing food with the hungry. "It is already working," she replied. "We just made it official." In the distance, human ships flew alongside Tecnari vessels. Former enemies had become friends, and somewhere in the vast galaxy, other acts of kindness were happening that would someday change everything again. The humans had learned something important about memory and friendship. Now they were teaching it to everyone else, one kindness at a time. 5 years had passed since the Great Peace at Harmony Point. The galaxy looked very different now. Where once there had been borders marked by fear and weapons, now there were trade routes connecting distant worlds. Species that had never spoken to each other now worked together on projects that benefited everyone. Captain Ji-won, now Admiral Ji-won Park, stood on the observation deck of the new space station called Memory's Heart. The station orbited between 3 star systems, serving as the headquarters for the Galactic Memory Project. Through the great windows, she could see ships from dozens of species coming and going like busy bees around a hive. "Admiral," called a familiar voice behind her. Ji-won turned to see Takara approaching. The young Technari female now wore the robes of a Galactic Council mediator. Her shell had grown brighter over the years, marked with patterns that showed her new rank and responsibilities. "How are the latest reports?" Ji-won asked. Takara smiled, an expression that looked strange but wonderful on Technari features. "The Memory Project has recorded over 2 million acts of kindness in the past year alone. Species that have never interacted before are now helping each other based on the kindness network." She handed Ji-won a data pad showing recent examples. A Creedal mathematics teacher had helped Blixtar children learn advanced calculations. In return, Blixtar bioengineers had grown special coral structures to help Creedal build underwater cities. The Zephyrian monks had shared meditation techniques with stressed Velthari diplomats. The Velthari had responded by developing new breathing technologies for species that lived in different atmospheres. "It is working exactly as you hoped," Takara continued. "Kindness creates more kindness. Help creates more help. The network grows stronger every day." Ji-won nodded, but her expression remained thoughtful. "And what about the resistance movements? Are they still causing problems?" Not everyone in the galaxy had embraced the new way of doing things. Some species preferred the old systems of conquest and fear. A few groups had formed what they called the Iron Alliance, dedicated to returning to the traditional ways of taking what they wanted through force. The Iron Alliance attacked 3 more trading stations last month, Takara admitted. But something interesting happened. Before any military forces could respond, civilian ships from 7 different species arrived to help. Traders, tourists, even families on vacation. They all remembered receiving help from those stations in the past. She showed Ji-won security footage from the attacks. The images were remarkable. Ordinary beings from many worlds had put themselves in danger to protect places that had once shown them kindness. They worked together without anyone giving orders, coordinating their efforts through the Memory Project database. The Iron Alliance retreated without achieving any of their goals, Takara continued. Their leaders are beginning to realize that it is hard to conquer people who have millions of friends. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Ji-won activated the communication system to see Ambassador Kralthek appear on the screen. His shell was now marked with the deep blue lines that showed great age and wisdom. "Admiral Park," Kralthek said, "I have news that will interest you. The Outer Rim colonies have voted to join the Galactic Council. All 47 systems. They specifically mentioned the Memory Project as their reason for joining." Ji-won felt her heart skip with joy. The Outer Rim had been independent for centuries, refusing to trust any large organization. Their decision to join meant that the new galactic community now included almost every known species. "There is more," Kralthek continued. "The exploration fleets have made contact with 3 new species in the past month. When our first contact teams arrived, they brought gifts instead of weapons, food instead of threats. The new species have all agreed to peaceful first contact protocols. This was the real victory. For thousands of years, first contact between species had often meant war. Fear of the unknown led to violence. Different ways of life led to conflict. But the Memory Project had changed this pattern. Now, when exploring, ships found new worlds. They brought databases full of kindness examples. They showed new species how cooperation worked. They offered help instead of demanding submission. "How many species are now part of the network?" Ji-won asked. 347, Takara replied. "And growing every day." The number amazed Ji-won every time she heard it. Humanity had started with simple acts of kindness toward strangers. Now those acts had grown into a galaxy-spanning community, based on mutual aid and support. A young human officer approached them. Lieutenant Dae-ho Kim was one of the new generation that had grown up in the peaceful galaxy. He had never known a time when species fought each other instead of helping each other. "Admiral," Lieutenant Kim reported, The anniversary celebration is ready to begin. Today marked exactly 5 years since the peace at Harmony Point. Beings from across the galaxy had come to Memory's heart station to celebrate. But this was not a celebration of victory in war. It was a celebration of victory over war itself. Jiwan, Tekhara, and Lieutenant Kim walked together toward the main celebration hall. Along the way, they passed memorial walls covered with holographic displays. Each display showed a different act of kindness that had helped build the peaceful galaxy. There was Dr. Minho saving a child's life 68 years ago, Engineer Do-hyun fixing a stranger's ship 52 years ago, Medic Seung-jun sharing food with a dying alien child 23 years ago. But now there were thousands of other stories too. Aliens helping humans, species helping other species they had never met before. The memorial walls stretched for kilometers through the station corridors. Every good deed was remembered. Every act of help was honored. Every moment of kindness was preserved forever. In the celebration hall, High Admiral Tekvar waited at the speaker's podium. He was much older now, his shell marked with the scars of many battles. But his eyes held peace instead of anger. "Friends," he began, addressing the crowd of thousands. "5 years ago I commanded the largest attack fleet in galactic history. I came to these stars planning conquest and destruction." His voice carried clearly through the vast hall. "Instead, I learned something that changed everything. I learned that the strongest force in the universe is not fear. It is not weapons, it is not even courage." He paused and looked around at the mixed crowd of species. "The strongest force in the universe is memory, the memory of kindness given and received, the memory of help offered freely, the memory of strangers who chose to care." The crowd listened in complete silence. Even the youngest children seemed to understand the importance of his words. Today, we celebrate not the end of war, but the beginning of something better. We celebrate the day when the galaxy remembered that we are all neighbors under the same stars. As applause filled the hall, Jiwan thought about her father Taehyun, who had died before seeing this day. He had taught mathematics to alien students because helping others made him happy. He never knew that his simple kindness would help create a peaceful galaxy. But that was the wonderful truth about kindness. It grew in ways that no one could predict. Small acts became large movements. Individual choices became universal changes. Moments of help became eternal memories. The celebration continued late into the station's artificial night. Species danced together to music from many worlds. Children played games that mixed traditions from different cultures. Adults shared stories and dreams for the future. As Jiwan finally returned to her quarters, she found a message waiting on her personal screen. It was from the newest species to join the galactic community. They had sent a simple note in carefully translated human language. "Thank you for teaching us that the universe can be kind. We will remember this lesson, and we will teach it to others." Jiwan smiled and looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, other acts of kindness were happening right now. Other strangers were choosing to help instead of hurt. Other species were learning that friendship was stronger than fear. The humans had started something wonderful when they decided to remember every kindness. Now that memory belonged to everyone. And it would continue growing, one good deed at a time, until every corner of the galaxy knew what it meant to be truly free. Free from fear, free from want, free to be kind to strangers under the stars.